Hello, welcome back. So, over the past week, I listened to a couple of interviews with a gentleman named James Sexton, and he's a divorce lawyer and probably one of the most outspoken romantics I've heard in a very long time. It was quite surprising. It was on the Diary of a CEO podcast or YouTube channel, which I really like. The gentleman who runs that, Stephen, he's really good at asking pertinent, insightful questions, and he's genuinely asking what he's curious about. But then he shuts the hell up and gets out of the way for the guest. And there's too few interviewers that do that well. I think if you go, like Joe Rogan's one of the most famous podcasters out there, and he does great long form interviews, and he's the reason we have so many great podcasts now. I don't think he's the greatest interviewer. He tends to run off at the mouth quite a bit and cut people off, and he's just not terribly skilled at that portion of it, at least not in a way that I am interested in listening to that often. But when you let somebody who has put thought into a subject and is a subject expert and is just extremely knowledgeable and well spoken, if you let them run free, you're going to get some great information. And that's what I was getting out of this. And one of the things he was talking about, because he's very focused on, due to the nature of his work, on the end of relationships. And, he made a point of every marriage ends in death or divorce. There are only two options. So he's had a lot of experience with death. He was a hospice worker. His mom had long bouts with cancer and died of cancer. And just a really interesting guy. It's funny. It's been every now and again somebody will pop up on an interview that I'm just like, wow, this really resonates with me, and I would like to meet this person and just have a conversation with them. And he's one of them. No surprise that late into the first interview, I heard with him, like, oh, he does jujitsu. Of course he does. My people. But something he said was he sees a lot of people go through life without thought and plan. And one of the things he did in hospice training was you have to write your own eulogy. And I've heard of this thought exercise a few times, and I've given a little bit of thought. I haven't actually sat down to do it, but I've definitely mulled it over in my head, kind of the same way you do, like, what would I do if I won the lottery? And, like, have you really played that out? Like, everybody's like, oh, I'd go, I'd buy a yacht, I'd do all these crazy things. And, like, have you actually played it out? I have. And, it's like, I invest here and here. I set up trust funds for family members, for my descendants, all the things. And, yes, you're going to have a good life too, but that money's not going away in the course of 2 years like it does for a surprising amount of lottery winners. So it's worthwhile putting thought into things ahead of time. And when you write your own eulogy, whether it's present tense or like set at the end of your life, you get to decide like what story is told about you. And yeah, is that a true story? I mean, if people are going to tell a story about you, you want to try and make it true, and you want to make it the best story you can. And if you plan that out, you can live towards that end. That's kind of what I see the black belt ceremony as in jiu-jitsu. At least in our school, and I think most places, it's kind of a thing that if somebody hits black belt, they give a bit of a speech. And to me, like the journey to black belt is long and fraught with stress and joy and just turmoil in the best and worst ways. And I don't really care about getting that piece of cloth. I do. I mean, everybody does, even if they say they don't. But I want to have had the experience to relay in a really good speech as a black belt. Like that's the thing when I'm sitting there listening to these people talk about their journey, that's what I want to have. Not the, yeah, I coasted all the way and I'm so skilled and I got my black belt in 3 years. Those people don't interest me at all. It's the person who struggled and spent 8 years at brown belt and then got their black belt. That's the person that like he really overcame and he changed his life during the course of this journey. That's the kind of story I want to hear. I want to have the experiences that lead into that kind of good story. And I think that thought exercise for the eulogy can be played out the same way. And you have to be honest. And this is kind of like the self-authoring program that Jordan Peterson has, where you go back and you write the story of your past and you write the story of your future. And you can write those however you want. And most of us think that we are the hero of our own story. Few of us think that we are the villain of other people's stories. And you can write your story as a victim or somebody who overcame. And you can plot your future and try to live up to it. And that's something I have put a bit of thought into. And I gotta tell you, man, it's not fun to sit back and look at yourself. And in the first, for me, 30-ish years of my life, I was the villain in a lot more stories than I was the hero. Uh, and yeah, you can write it off too. Yeah, you were a teenager, you were in your 20s, you were chasing tail, you're doing whatever. Sure, it's common. That does not mean it's excusable. Uh, if you've ever been used, I mean, if you've ever just had somebody get what they want from you and drop you, I have. I think that was a very valuable thing for me in my late 20s. A woman who I was deeply, deeply head over heels attracted to and wanted to be with, kind of did that to me, and it was a good thing because I got to feel what it was like, and it made me go back and realize that all of the shallow relationships I'd had, I was that person on the other side, and that doesn't mean just in romantic relationships. That means like in any kind of relationship. If you have a transactional relationship and the other person thinks like you were truly their friend or truly their business partner or truly their romantic partner and you're just in it to get something, I think you hurt the other person and you hurt a piece of yourself by allowing that kind of nature to come out in you and to nurture that kind of nature. I'm a big believer in humans, whether I don't care if you believe in any of the religious ideas or if there's something greater in the world or not. We are our own demons and angels. You know, hear about the angels of our better nature. Humanity is the birthplace of some of the most beautiful, selfless, incredible acts, works of art, music, ideas, just amazing. Like I love Star Trek just because it paints the idealized future of us embracing that side of humanity. We are also the cruelest, most depraved, ruthless, sadistic form of life on this planet. And we're both things. And we're both things at the same time throughout the entirety of our race and at times within a single lifetime, within a single person. And that's tough to come to terms with. And you have to embrace that darkness before you can really start to pursue the light. That's why I really enjoy people like Jordan Peterson, Jocko Willink, people who acknowledge that, yeah, we are bad. We have the potential to be the bad, period. Like the ultimate form of evil. And we don't need monsters to do it for us. But we also have the potential to be the greatest force for good. And he was in this conversation about eulogies and stuff, and he said something he had seen a lot was people saying you have to well, what were the great achievements of your life? And a lot of people just say, oh, my kids. I'm the greatest thing I ever did in my life was have my kids. And he's like, really? And he has kids. He loves his kids, and he's super proud of them. And he says, but he felt it was kind of anticlimactic and lackluster for your kids to be the greatest thing in your life. Because well, then what do you want for your kids? Should their kids be the greatest thing in their life? Like, just ad infinitum down the road. Like, at what point does somebody have a great accomplishment that is not just, having a kid? Now, personally, I love my daughter. She's the most amazing thing that has ever happened to me. But it did make me think about things in a different light. Like, is it just continuation of the species, breeding? I mean, that's what insects and animals do. That's we have the ability to move towards a higher calling, a higher ideal. So that was kind of eye opening, and I was trying to think about it. I'm like, what things would I think were great accomplishments in my life? Things that I would want to be in a eulogy, things I would want to be known for, things that I have done that I'm very proud of. Graduating the Marine Corps boot camp. I've said before, I was not a knock it out of the park Marine. I was not stellar. I was, middle of the pack or lower. But passing that trial, going from being the fat kid who had never done anything, homeschooled, no sports, no real exposure to the world, to passing that initial trial, that was in the top two most emotional moments of my life. The other one being the birth of my daughter. Just life-changing moment, and you know it in the moment, and it is a huge inflection point. There's a before and there's an after. Then there's my daughter, and it's not just like having had a daughter. It's the process of trying to make her a viable adult in society and somebody who is worthwhile to herself and who's not a detriment to society, somebody who betters the human race. Man, you want to talk about a tall order, and it doesn't come with an instruction manual, and we all fuck it up to one degree or another. Um, Parenthood is one of the craziest rides you could ever get on, but I'm really, really proud of it and glad I've done it. But then I think, what other things have I done or could I do that I would want to be known for? What would I consider a great work? You look at somebody like Marcus Aurelius, who basically wrote himself journal entries, diary notes, maybe have become a blueprint for a lot of people in life. And I don't know if he knew he was doing that, but what is a great work? What's your Sistine Chapel? What have you done that enhances the beauty of the human race? And I think for me, I know you guys are getting tired of hearing about jujitsu if you don't actually do jujitsu, but for me, it is doing jujitsu. It's not just the act of doing it. I mean, I think just the act of doing it can be good. I've rolled with people who are scientists, engineers, doctors, cancer doctors, people working in pharmacology, people who actually are doing something that is directly enhancing the human race. They got to come choke me out for an hour in the morning. And you know what? If that cleared their head so that they made that discovery, I feel like I had a little part in that discovery. But actually, though, what am I doing with jujitsu? Like, trying to make it the best community possible at our school, at trying to help create and maintain an environment and a community where people can work to better themselves. I think that is something profound, and taken to the nth degree, you can change the world. And I formalized this. I wrote it up and submitted it to the management of the school at one point. And I think that's what we're doing. Like, what is the purpose of your school? Is it self-defense? Is it a fight club? What is it? I think really what we are doing is we are giving every single person there the opportunity to better themselves and pursue their better nature. However they do that, whatever that means to them, whether that means keeping themselves physically safe, whether that means exploring aspects of their personality and their proclivities, whether that means becoming a better jujitsu grappler and going on and becoming a UFC fighter and supporting their family. I don't know. But I think that when you make somebody look at themselves and pursue a better portion of themselves, that ripples outwards into other aspects of their life, into aspects of the life of the people around them. So we recently were talking about Musashi and the Tao Te Ching in book club, and I had a visual in my head of void, and you say go, and then all of a sudden it's directed like a river. And Joe likened it to drops of water and the ripples and how they go out, and if you can have multiple drops and they intersect. And I think that's the way that training at our school makes itself known in the world. You are being a drop of water within your personal community, whether that's your friend group, your family, your social circles, your work, whatever. I think pursuing something better is vital. I think that struggle, that desire to overcome is deeply rooted in our nature. And too often we push it to the side and ignore it, and we don't directly pursue it. But yeah, it was just really good conversation on a podcast, and it really made me think about my life. What have I done? What would I like to do? Um, have I been a shit? Yes. Can I make up for that? No, I don't think you can. You can go apologize to and make reparations to people directly, but I don't think you can. You can't ever take back those effects, but you can try to mitigate them by not repeating those actions and by spreading love, making things better for other people, and trying to, raise the level of the human race. And I think that's something that we don't see enough of in our society, especially right now. We're extremely divided. I see a lot of hate. I see a lot of bitterness and vengeance, petty vengeance, and bullying going on right now. And I want to do whatever I can to turn that around. Yeah, I think that's about it. I think that kind of sums up where I am with life and what I want to do. I'm trying to do that in my day to day. All right, so that about wraps it up for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope this makes you think. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know. I'd love to have a conversation. I don't know if anybody's actually watching these yet. I'd have to go back and look at the statistics. I don't know if anybody's found these or started tuning in. But I'm going to keep doing them anyways. It's good for me. All right. I will talk to you later. Take care.